My name is Marsha Robinson, and we are recording an oral history with Lois Lafayette and Marsha Miller as part of the Sweet MUMories Oral History Project. This project marks the 50th anniversary of the Miami University Middletown, Ohio campus. This interview is taking place on December 2nd, 2016 at the Gardner Harvey Library. Mrs. Lafayette and Mrs. Miller, do I have your consent to proceed with this interview?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, we are talking to the Lafayette family, who's been connected with the Middletown campus since it first started. So can we start with the news that a Middletown campus was going to open up in 1966? How did your family respond to that opportunity?
Oh, I was overjoyed because I didn't get to go to college, and I thought how wonderful my children will get to go. And so my son came. Now, I don't know that he came the very first year.
He did.
Did he?
Mm-hmm. He graduated from high school in 1966.
And came right over. Honestly, I'm sorry. I wasn't sure if that was the very first time. But he was very happy here. And his major was art. And he graduated from Oxford campus then, later, and he worked all the time that he was going to school, you know, because we really didn't have a lot of money. And he really almost supported himself while he was going. And he's living in Florida now, and he's retired.
And then a couple of years later, Marsha, you came. And so tell us about your decision to come and maybe about your friends in high school and what they were saying about the local campus.
My decision was, we didn't have very much money, so it was great that it was close by. I could live at home, and I could also work. So, that's why it was great for me. Plus, the campus activities were, a big thing I could do too. As far as the kids in school, I'm not really sure. I think some of them went other places, the ones that, that I was involved with. So I pretty much was meeting new people when I came here. So,
what was it like to meet so many new people?
Usually it's hard for me, but I joined a sorority, and then that just helped everything. Yeah.
Tell us about the sorority.
Well, ours was called Sigma Epsilon Chi, and it was they were all friendly and nice, and we had a good time and did some community work too, and went on trips. And
do you remember any of the community projects?
I know one was supporting a child in a different country. I don't remember which country, but that's the one I remember.
You also were involved in other student organizations like Future Secretaries. Could you tell us about Future Secretaries?
I believe it was Evelyn Day that actually had me. She started it with me, and I don't know if it went past that first year that we started it or not. But that was nice. That was another opportunity to meet people.
Can you tell us more about Evelyn Day? What was she like?
She was very nice and very helpful.
You also participated in Model United Nations.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about Model UN.
Well, that was fun too. The Model UN was fun. We learned about different countries because we were assigned a country, and then we had to learn about some aspect of it. We had to write a proposition, and then when we went to New York for the Model UN, it was just, I guess, like a regular UN where people would make resolutions and you would vote on them, and you would meet other people and try to get them to vote your view, or vice versa. So that was a good experience also.
Were trips like this important for students from Middletown and from MUM?
I think it was, yes. It was very important because you got to see the world a little more, and outside our little box of Middletown.
Can you talk to us about the technology that was available to people in the applied science program?
Wow. Back then they had like the regular adding machines, the machines that duplicate things. I don't even remember what they call those now.
Mimeographs?
Mimeograph, that's it, the mimeograph. I do believe we had the electric typewriters, but I'm not positive.
And then key punch cards?
The key punch, yeah. I took some computer classes later, and in those we had the key punch cards.
Could you describe what a key punch card is?
It's just a little oblong card, and it had little holes in it, and those holes, depending on where they were punched, meant different words.
Did you have a job while you were a student?
Yes, I always had a job.
What did you do?
Let's see,
You had three,
I had 3
and
jobs.
4 when you count the library.
Yeah.
Or maybe I did count the library. You worked at Ford Motor.
Oh, no, I worked at Hal Motors.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah. And then I was an aide here, and I'm not sure, you said I had another one?
Yeah, you had another one.
Oh,
I can't remember either.
Well,
No.
can you tell us more about being a library aide?
Being a library aide was really fun also. The thing I remember the most are the receptions that they would have. They would have maybe an artist's collection of things, or a writer's, reception. And so that was fun to go to help work on those, and also to see what the artists or writers were doing.
Who attended those receptions?
Students, teachers attended it. Some community people would come to that also.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
then I also remember the microfiche room, which later became the computer room.
what's a microfiche?
Yeah, a microfiche was how they used to copy information. It was some kind of little machine with little tape or something on it. And then to find it, you'd have to look through a viewer to find what you want, and then crank to where whatever you wanted to see. Yeah.
Okay. For future scholars who may not see that technology.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, I'd like to move on to the next chapter in the Lafayette story. And Lois, after your children graduated, you started working here, or before they graduated.
No,
When did you start your association as an employee here at Miami Middletown?
I was hired November of 1976. They had just celebrated their 10th anniversary. And I knew the head of the campus, Dr. Bennett, and I knew the English teacher, Dr. Elizabeth Krukowski, and Elizabeth told me if there was an opening in the office for a night person, and I'll just tell the truth. I took a test. I couldn't type fast enough, so I didn't get it. I didn't get the job. So they got someone. And of course, we worked till 10 o'clock at night. Well, there were not many young people that wanted to, student worker or a faculty person that wanted to work that late. So that person quit. And I got the job. I went over, I took the test, I passed, I got over here. And in those days, we did not have computers. So that was a new, and I can't pinpoint the date that we got that, but I loved it. The computer, you could back up and erase your mistake. Whereas if you ever, before it, what you did, that was it. You better do it right. And so that was a much easier job then. And I just enjoyed everybody, and I enjoyed the faculty so much. They were from all over. I was here 30 years. There were people, faculty members from India, from China. It was a world experience for me, even though I was in little Middletown, Ohio. And I became a student in 1980. I finally decided I wanted to try. I was 60 years old, so I'm not a normal person taking classes. But I was treated fairly, and I enjoyed all my instructors. My French teachers were Mark Plegaman, and I cannot think of the other, and he was a young man and a handsome young man, but I can't think of his name. Maybe somebody will remember it for me. I took history. My major was English literature. Well, I couldn't take a lot of classes all at once. It took me 8 years. I was in my 8th year when my friend said, "Quit doing this. You're too old to be doing this, and you must have something that you can graduate with by now." And so we looked down my credits, and I had enough to use history as my concentration. So I got an associate degree in arts with a concentration in history in 1988.
What was it like being in a classroom in your 60s with 20-year-olds and 18-year-olds? How did the students treat you?
Well, I don't know. I did not. To be with the young people was wonderful. I didn't feel out of place. They might have thought I was out of place. But, I just felt it was a wonderful place to meet people and to learn together. And it's just something that I wish every child would have a chance to come and see what you'll learn here. Many things, not just subjects that you're attending, but with your friends and the many opportunities to learn. I too was in the Model UN. I went to New York. We had Ghana. Our country was Ghana. And it really was an experience. It was a true experience of how that would be if you were really there. We were in the UN. We were really in the UN building, and you had to go around. If you had a thing you wanted passed, you had to get people on up to vote for what you want. So you were learning a lot of things. Plus New York City.
We heard stories about people taking a taxi for the first time. Do you have any stories about that from either of your trips? Like, what was it like to be in the big city of New York for the first time? Anything stand out about your teammates and looking at the buildings or anything like that?
Looking at the buildings. Well, the UN is a beautiful building. And, of course, the Metropolitan Opera was a beautiful thing. So I would tell students, get into things like that. And if it isn't that, there's other things. We had a French club. I was president of the French club, and we sold some. I forget what we sold to get money to go to Quebec, and we went. Mark Plageman was our teacher and our mentor in our club, and we went in the wintertime. And first we went to Toronto, which was a first. All these are firsts for me. Going to Toronto, I stayed overnight there, and one of the students wouldn't come. After we went out to eat and walked around downtown, one of the students wouldn't come out with us. And I said, "Why didn't you come out?" She did. When we got to Montreal, she did come out with us. But I said, "Why didn't you come out in Toronto?" She said, "All those people." I said, "They're not all outside at one time," you know. So she blossomed, I'd say, on that trip. And when we got to Montreal, it was probably after midnight, I'm not sure, but it was late at night. And all the lights went out in the town. Well, no, I didn't know about the town. But they went out in the hotel we were in, and I thought some of those kids in the French club had caused it. But it wasn't. It was a transformer, they claimed, out in the plain somewhere had caused it. Oh, well, the day before we got there, there was a strike. I kind of remember there was some kind of this is showing you how old I am. I can't remember what the word is but it was the Quebec people that they were down in Montreal to give this demonstration that they wanted to just have French and move away from the Canada and be they didn't want to be a part of whatever the government was at that time. And I also thought about that. I thought maybe those people did it. Well, when I found out it was the whole city, it wasn't our group. Our group didn't cause it.
That's good news. I'd like to talk about some of the other people that you've worked with. You mentioned Leon Childs. Can you tell us about Mr. Childs? Who is he?
Well, he was our police guard. He was a real policeman and was very nice man. And I was working late one night, and I didn't know it, but he fell. He fell between Johnston Hall and the library in the snow. It was snow. And he had fallen and broken his leg. And I didn't know that till the next day, then they told me that he was in the hospital. I felt so bad that I was there. I might have been able to have helped him, but I didn't know it. I didn't know.
Can you tell us stories about the security team in any situation? Well, what was it like to know that there were security officers on campus when you're working the night shift? What was that like?
Well, that's nice. That was nice to know there was somebody there. Because, let's see, by that time, I think I had started out down on the main floor of Johnston Hall, and then I moved upstairs to the faculty office. and they closed that downstairs. So I was really, and then the person at the switchboard went home at 8 o'clock. So I was actually the only non-faculty person in these three buildings, you know, and things would happen, you know, you'd have to call, somebody gets sick, you'd have to call the ambulance for them, and that was sometimes hard to do.
I'd like to talk about some more faculty and staff. Did you want to talk about Carolyn Kiefer?
Oh, yes, she was a wonderful person, is a wonderful person. I'm sure she's still here. And she was instrumental in seeing to all the flowers around. And I never got to take a class from her. My botany class was a man from Oxford, and he was wonderful too. Yes, because we had, this campus had regular faculty. Then what I was taking care of was the night regular faculty, plus people that came over. I think I had about 47 or 48 faculty, people from Oxford campus, the Hamilton campus, the business world, other universities, faculty people came in as faculty. And that was interesting, too, to know all those people.
Did you want to tell us about David Gelwick? David Gelwick?
He was the history teacher. We had 3 history teachers. David Gelwick, Joe Baxter, and Jim Lehman. And I am saying this, and I don't know if I should, but David was right, what we would call on the right. Joe was a middle person, and Jim was more to the left. So we had these 3, and there was a philosophy teacher. No, it wasn't philosophy. It was political science, and I couldn't think of his name.
Finning?
Finning,
Yeah.
Marsha.
Ray, was it
Ray Finning.
Yeah.
A wonderful man. He'd been in the Army, I believe. He was a
Could be.
big person. And he was sort of a moderation for those other 3. Somehow I always had them together as thinking about what they seemed to be.
So we've got stories about the 3 of them arguing. Do you
Yeah.
have any stories about them
And
arguing?
Ray is sort of a moderator.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I can tell you about David Gelwick. He stomped up to that was when I was in the office on the main floor. He stomped up to me and said, "Well, I just sent a message to the president." I said, "Oh, yeah." That was, Carter was president, and there were hostages. And he said, "I told him to get an army in there and get them out of there." So, it didn't work. Well, maybe it did work. They did try. You know, they did try to do it. And, it was a riot. It was. And Joe, I don't know if you want this either. Gary, what was the guy that was running for president?
Gary Hart?
Gary Hart? Yeah. Well, Joe liked him. Oh, he was so angry about all of the scandal, you know. And he came up to me, and he didn't think that Gary Hart should have quit. I said, "Not quit, you know. We wouldn't want him as a president." He said, "Why?" And I said, "Because if he urged those journalists to find out if he was a womanizer, and they did. And I say, anybody that dumb shouldn't be president. So I don't know how that fits in, but that was Joe. That was the only argument we ever had. We were always friendly, and even after that, too. Oh, and another thing about Joe. Oh, they had a system about the classes. And it was a complicated thing that I can't remember his name. He invented it, and Joe stomps in, and there were orange cards. He said, "Now, who would want an orange card?" I mean, to me, these are funny things. I don't know if it's funny.
Cards? Were those the registration cards?
Yeah, well, they were classes. The timing. Okay. I believe they were for the time. Okay. And each class had a different color. But he definitely did not want orange cards.
Okay.
Oh,
can you tell us some more stories about Claire Easton?
Now, there's the heroine of this campus. She initiated the arts and lecture series. And she had some opposition because she wanted the best. And she would go to New York and see the demonstrations that they give for people to pick to come to their whatevers. And she got the best she could, and they were very expensive. And some of them she had to enlist other colleges to take them to, to split the cost. And the opposition wanted to have the kids stuff, the rock and roll people, and she said they go to that. The children go if they want to see things like that. There's places they've got the money to go to. Students were free to these things. We had the man that invented the geodesic dome. We had. I never thought about looking this up. Of all the people we had were the top. They were the tops. And one of the band that she had was not too well known at the time, and I remember they went to be the top in their field. It was a band. James Taylor was here. I just can't think of all of it. And I don't think they've had as good a program since. Now, of course, I'm prejudiced because after she left, it wasn't the same.
Can you tell us stories about Dr. Bob Suffer?
Oh, he was a wonderful man too. He is a wonderful man. He has brought thousands of programs, as sponsors of research he was doing. And everybody that took his class, it is something everybody should take. That's another thing. I think that you have your major, but there are certain things you should also try to squeeze in somehow so that you are a well-rounded person when you go wherever you go from here. And it's important that you know there's other things besides your major.
Tell us about Lee Horvitz.
He died last year. And he was a very good person, and they all seemed to like his work. And he and I became very good friends. We were both interested in art, and moved away to he went to New Orleans. He was writing a book, and when he come back to Cincinnati, he'd always come and see me, and we'd go to. One time we went up to Dayton. There was an exhibit I wanted him to see. We got there, and they had changed it. I wasn't paying attention. They were closed on that day. So, and he had brought a friend with him. And I said, well, Marsha, the nature center there. Cox Arboretum. I took him to Cox Arboretum. Do you know it? Mm-hmm. How beautiful that is? And it was a good time. Oh, they loved that. So we got to do that together. And I visited with him and his friends in Cincinnati. And he was very intelligent. And in fact, on my email that I told you I didn't really like, oh no, it wasn't that. It was my cell phone. He called and he said he just read something so interesting, and he said, I knew I wanted to talk it over with you, so call me as soon as you can. And I'm keeping that. It's on my telephone. It's on the telephone at home. Okay. I don't know if they let you keep things like that.
I think so. You also wanted to talk about Harold Nadel.
Oh, now Harold taught English. Oh man, he was what you would say was a teacher, because he brought so much to a class. I mean, he knew so much. Miriam Cheatham was a teacher too, English teacher also, and she was good too. But Harold was a scholar, and there's a difference. I don't know what the difference is, except that a scholar knows more. I think they know more, of course, because a scholar is investigating certain things, whereas maybe a teacher is, I shouldn't denigrate a teacher, I don't want to, but I just mean there's a difference, and you get to know something. I did not get to be a student of his, but I sat in on a couple of his classes, and I knew how wonderful he was.
Some people talk about they're surprised of the quality of instruction at the regional campuses.
Oh, really?
And that the quality of instructors is just as good at Oxford. Would you like to continue talking about that teacher-scholar idea that you've observed?
Well, I'm not putting down the English teachers, because they're all wonderful. Every one of these teachers. I can't think of anybody that I would call a bad teacher. I wasn't in everybody's class. I didn't take a class from every faculty person, but I knew them and I knew what they talked about, and they talked to me about their classes. I mean, this was just candy land for me to be there, And they all had degrees. They didn't. They weren't all PhDs. That's another thing. Maybe that's what they're referring to. But you don't have to have a PhD to be a good teacher. In fact, it might be a hindrance.
What I'd like to do is refer to the vision that the founding committee had for the Middletown campus. That the campus would provide opportunity for people from Middletown, but that the campus would continue to return to the community a higher quality of life, perhaps. Can you say that that vision of the Middletown campus was accomplished, and how have you seen that accomplished?
I think it was accomplished for me. I would have never been able to go to college or have as many experiences that I did, and my life would have been so much different and not as nice, had this not been here. So,
Well, I guess that would be a very good research project to see what people think about that. The ones that went here and the ones who didn't go. Sometimes in that era, in this town, I know for a fact that some groups didn't want to come here and thought the ones who did come here, were sissies or something. It really discouraged them from coming here. That really was going on. But they came anyway. Because it is very hard for people to. I think it's probably easier now than it was, but maybe I'm not right on that. But they're coming. A lot of them are coming right from high school, where they've known everybody, for probably 2 or 3 grades down and up for years, and then they come here and they don't know anyone. And it is kind of scary, I think, to be there. It wasn't scary for me because I worked here, my kids had gone here. It wasn't scary for me to go into classes, except because of my age, it was a little daunting, Of course, I always felt the kids knew more than I did, and but they were good to me. Every class I had, that I was friends with the children the students that were in there.
What advice would you give to a frightened student?
I believe that they should get into activities as their time permits. I think they'll have to, if they haven't done it already in their life, they'll have to have a schedule to stay to have it so that they could they've got to study, but they have to also go out and meet other people. That's a part of your education. Learning how to get with people that are not like you at all, and how to reach out to other people and think and have time to think. I think it's a helpful thing for them to know this, that you have to have a schedule to hold on to, because otherwise you're just spending your time in pursuits of things that are not going to benefit what you're doing,
to add to the theme that, my brother went here, I went here, my mother went here. Her granddaughter also went here. Missy took nursing classes.
Oh, yeah.
And
I have a great-granddaughter that's going to start.
Right. Yeah.
So it really is a family
Right,
experience.
it
for
is.
Lafayette.
It is, yeah.
Is there something from the early days of the campus culture that you hope continues for the next 50 years?
Well, I don't know if they still have their newspaper. They don't have a newspaper?
The Chaos no longer is published.
And they used to have a radio station also.
We don't have a radio station.
Yeah.
anymore. Tell us about those.
Well,
Chaos and the radio
that was
station.
another organization for students to join and learn how to do these things that they wouldn't have a chance to normally. I don't know. I shouldn't say, because, I've been gone almost 10 years here. So there could be a lot of changes that I don't know about.
What was good about the Chaos?
Oh, we did have a big thing about they wanted to get rid of the title.
Tell us about that. Haven't heard
Because there was a group, and it was backed by one of the teachers, and he was an English teacher, to get rid of that name. He did not like it, Chaos. With the K, and I thought I liked it, because that was sort of what in the movies, that's what newspaper office always was, going, hurrying up for the edition, getting the
headlines.
news and all that. And that was an experience for them to know how to do that. And it was another thing they could join. That, to me, it was my life of joining on the events that they had. We never had really a club about it, but I don't know if they do this. They take the students to Chicago or New York.
Not anymore. Well, yes, we did. We just had an art group that went to New York.
Oh, good. Oh, so good, because when I went every one they went. They never took them to the art museum. And I was rooming, there were three of us in a room, and I said, you are going to go to the art museum. Well, they didn't want to. I said, you're going. And they did, and they were just enthralled with that. And they said, we're bringing our boyfriends back. And they did. They brought them back to see it. I mean, there was one thing I remember they always, they have, I guess they still have it, the statues with the, I mean, of course they've got the statues, but with the helmets and all that, and all they loved it. But that's it. You got to have somebody. I don't know that every time I went, I took a student with me to the art museum.
Can you tell us about the radio station?
I don't really remember that much about
Maybe,
it.
did
about
you
the
have it?
radio station. I just remember that there was one. Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add to the record that people should know about this place when they're doing research in the future?
There is help here. There's a student, I don't know what they call it now, where they can go for help and talk about things, and they should. It is kind of amorphous, that you don't have the structure you had in high school, where they told you what to do and where to go, and you better be there. That does not happen here. You are on your own as far as doing what you're supposed to do. They're not overseers here. They're people, but there are people here for you, to help you. And probably that the newspapers should be saying things like this. Maybe they are. I guess I'm amiss in not keeping up with the newspaper.
You wanted to talk about what kind of campus or school this should be.
Yes, there came a time when there was a certain section of the town, I guess, and maybe Oxford too, that thought we should be turned into a technical school. Oh no, They wanted the real, they call it, the real deal. And that's what it was started for, that was meant. And Armco, I don't think I mentioned what a wonderful source. Armco was for it, to the start of it. And I was thinking about something else that they did. They sent people, their workers here to be trained. I don't know what they took, I'm sorry, but they paid for their training, their classes. And I think that's a wonderful thing. I mean, maybe other companies do it too, but I know for a fact that Armco did, because I knew some of the men that came to take the classes, the older men, And I just thought that was such a big show that Middletown wanted this campus to be a campus for scholars. We had other things. We had the nursing department. And it was important. It gave dignity to their degree, and it didn't happen. Barry Levy over there, he was instrumental in getting this started and keeping it going. it was wonderful. You know, he was from Middletown. He was an attorney here, and people, the people that had power were for they because they wanted intelligent people. You know, they wanted them. Well, that isn't to say that the technical people aren't intelligent. I'm sorry if I give that impression, because they are, but there are other people too that we don't have here. We don't have the resources that technical people have. They could get a job and learn their trade, you know, but that's not possible for university training. You can't just go out and get a job somewhere and learn in French or whatever. So it really was a blessing for this town.
Do I have your permission to turn off the recording?
Yes, you do.
Thank you.